some of the experiences that customers went through. And so we have a team of panelists that we've brought together. So you're hearing from others beyond Oracle as well. My name is Sashank Vaimana. I lead the People Tool Strategy team, and we'll move on. Safe harbor applies in case we're talking about any future direction, particularly from Oracle side. And I'll move on here. So if you want to know more details on the move to OpenSearch, go to the previous session. It's recorded. That was at 10:30 today, right? You can just find the recording there. Here you won't know. I mean, we cannot give you how do you do certain things and all that, but we'll talk about more experiences. What is it like? So that's going to be the theme of the session. There's a panel session that I highlighted for you, and more on the insights, right? The insights that I'll be covering more in detail, how to's tomorrow, so you can get that. And any questions unanswered, you still have questions, something you thought about later, bring it to the panel discussion on Thursday, right? And a lot of information on my the PeopleSoft info. And one thing I will share here, let me show this. You go to PeopleSoft info and go into the search page. You will find a link about the move to OpenSearch. This is the document that you want to be on, right? This has everything you need to know, a lot of the FAQs answered out there, right? Also a lot of information on our blogs, etc. So I'll quickly set the stage for this call, and then introduce the panelists, and then we'll get into it, right? What is the switch to OpenSearch? If you were not on the previous call, because of licensing changes that was made by Elastic, the company that managed the previous distribution of Elasticsearch and OpenSearch, that Elasticsearch and Kibana, we are moving to OpenSearch dashboards. That's one thing. Availability is there, starting with 86007 and 85921. Anything going on, Justice, that that you want to chime in?
No, not at all.
No?
I'm
Okay.
actually gonna mute myself.
Oh, no, that's fine. I thought you said something. That's okay. And the other migration aspect, right? You will use the OpenSearch kit that's available as of these patches, and you will do a full data copy as part of that, right? When you do the data copy, all your definitions, index information, everything copies over, analytics also. So you can, and then you can go into the search framework and do the live switch over, right? So it's a very easy move, and zero impact on search, zero impact on real-time indexing. You can check out my session earlier as well as other things where we have shown some demos, right? So that's that. And there's going to be some changes to the terminology in terms of moving away from using Kibana and going into PeopleSoft Insights is our generic term that we will use moving forward. So that's the just high level background for OpenSearch. And I want to introduce our panelists. So how did we bring these guys together? Well, one thing we did as part of the early release of OpenSearch, or the availability of OpenSearch in 860, we brought together partners that we work with closely. And Astute and Dan is an Oracle ace, and um, Gary from Spear MC, and Kanchan from Astute, right? So we got them together on an early adopter program as soon as the 86007 patch was out, and we got them to just play with this, just go through the motions, how is the experience, and we tried to find what are some of the early issues potentially. We didn't really find a whole lot. There were a few things we fixed, and gave them patches for it, and those are already available in the latest patches, right? Um, and then we also have Rajesh from the community healthcare system, who is the customer and also a member of our customer advisory board. We work with them very closely. We heard that they went live in September with a bunch of things that they do with their tools as well as application updates, and they moved to OpenSearch as part of that, and they are pretty happy with the experience there. So that's the background for why we got this panel together, and so we'll talk about the experiences moving forward. I'll get them to introduce themselves real quick. So Dan, you're up first.
Hi, I'm Dan Iverson. I'm an Oracle Ace Pro, working with PeopleSoft for a while now. And as part of the early adopter program, we did some testing with St. Paul Public Schools with OpenSearch. We are not live on it, unfortunately. The timing just didn't work out, but we did a fair amount of testing with OpenSearch with some of our environments and around Cloud Manager. So we'll talk about that later. And just for fun, we're also running PeopleSoft on OCI, so we can take advantage of the Cloud Manager integration as well with it.
Awesome. Thank you, Dan. Kanchan, you're up next.
We can't hear you, Kanchan.
Are you on mute?
Am I audible?
Yes.
Oh, now you are.
Yep.
Okay. So, sorry. So my name is Kanchan. I have 11 plus years of experience in this industry, and I've been helping customers, doing the upgrades and consultations. So with this OpenSearch early adopter program, we started with we have a couple of applications, in-house applications, which we have a lot of custom dashboards and all. So I will talk about that in today's journey, that how it went through, during the migration process. So, and a little introduction about my company. So we have a lot of cloud offerings. We do move and improve and disaster recovery as service. We provide analytic cloud and autonomous data database, rapid implementation package or pre-built dashboards if you want, or any VMware to OCI migration. And we also provide managed services. And this is our modernization expertise. So, we make sure that your analytics and chatbot, we provide services in that. And we provide security, make sure your application is up to date, automate, we are highly into automation. Anything related to decustomization, we are there, and we also provide DevOps services. Yeah, so thank you.
Awesome. Thanks so much. And Gary, you're up next.
All right, I'm Gary Dradikoski. I'm with SpearMC, Managing Director over there. I've been doing PeopleSoft for over 20 years. It was actually my first job out of college. I still have my PeopleSoft employee number shirt, so it doesn't fit me anymore, but I guess that comes over time. But I've been doing reporting analytics throughout my career. So when I came to SpearMC, it was a natural to have me kind of take over and run this practice and really learn what right about the same time I joined SpearMC. You can go to the next slide. That's okay.
Oh, sorry.
Right about the same time I joined SpearMC is when Kibana came into the fold at PeopleSoft. So at Oracle / PeopleSoft. So that was kind of my baby. So I had to learn that, and then I ended up, putting a class together. So I've, done a ton of training in the Kibana space. Now, obviously, as we transition over, I'm also involved in that. But as far as SpearMC, we have, full suite of products, so I should say service offerings, right? Managed services, training, consulting, technology as well. So, check us out, and hopefully most of you have heard of us. But, there's some information there. We can go to the next slide. As I mentioned, we do a lot of training. So, I did write the Kibana class, and now I'm going to redo that as OpenSearch dashboard. So, if anybody is looking for training in that, feel free to reach out to me. Looking forward to the session today.
Awesome. Thanks, Gary. And last but not the least, Rajesh, it's up next.
Hi everyone. I'm Rajesh. I've been working in PeopleSoft applications since 2008, and I'm with Community Healthcare System since 2015, and ERP manager. I manage the PeopleSoft ERP applications. We use almost the full suite of FSCM, all the way from ePro to GL. And on the HCM side, we use HR, payroll, benefits administration modules. We are aggressive in taking up features, and then keeping our system up to date, and then trying to take advantage of any kind of features that are delivered by Oracle always. Our FSCM is on POM. I don't know if there is a slide.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah.
Yep. There we go. So, okay. I think this is the old slide, but I'm sorry.
Okay.
My apologies.
Yeah.
We used something what we created for our CAB meeting 2-3 months
Correct.
ago, but right now our FSCM is on POM 48 with the 860.07 tools, and our HCM is on POM 46.
Yeah.
But 47 is the latest, but we are already one behind. 46 with the 860.07 tools. And like Sashank mentioned, we are live with all the analytics. As a matter of fact, like we are live as soon as the Kibana analytics were delivered, we started exploring one by one and enabling it, and not just enabling as delivered by Oracle. We even started adjusting it the way how we want it, like how we want to display the data, like changing some kind of visualizations and data, because it was not that complicated really. Like if you just take a look at it quickly, it's easy for your developers or business analysts or anyone to use it. So as part of Form 48, we even enabled new commitment control analytics, which is something our business loves it. They are exploring it. We're trying to deliver it to end users. We do use commitment control. So anyone who is using commitment control, like we are trying our best to share it with the end user so they can take advantage of analyzing the capital budgets. And yeah, this is about us. And we are live with all OpenSearch, open dashboards. And it's exactly the same words what Shashank just mentioned and Paco mentioned yesterday. It's a straightforward switch. Like Paco said, we didn't even have to run the full indexing. It was a straight switch, and for the new dashboards that we enabled with the recent PUM, like commitment control dashboard, when we enabled full indexing, um, it was good. Like everything really went smooth, and we are live in production with all the open dashboards.
Awesome. Thank you. And yeah, I think I think the slides are slightly outdated, but I think Rajesh kind of updated you guys. This is where they're at right now in the go live, etc. And future plans for 2024 as well. So with that, I will, yeah, before I go into the next question. So folks like community healthcare, right? These are the folks that we work with in the customer advisory board, folks who are aggressive in terms of deploying our features, because then we know what we need to improve on because they're using the latest thing. So that is a requirement if you want to be in a cab. And but if you are like community healthcare, reach out to us. We would be happy to put you on the cab. We still have some spots on that. And also I want to acknowledge the partners and the value they bring. All the three of them that who spoke earlier, training, implementations, they have a ton of experience with this search analytics. So you can reach out to them for any type of assistance, and they will help you out with that. I have some questions that I'm going to ask the panels before you guys start warming up and putting them in the Q&A panel. Also, if you if you put the question in, it's easier to go through the list, and then I can ask you to speak up if there's anything we want to follow up on. So don't be shy. Put your questions here, and we'll take any question. Nothing is problem here. So okay, so first thing, I'll go through the list of folks. Maybe I can start with Dan. You can talk about what your experience was on the early adopter program in terms of working with us on OpenSearch.
Yeah, so this was working on the early adopter program is always kind of fun. You usually by the time we get the software, it's been through the internal testing, it's ready for test for customers or partners to test, and so it's pretty straightforward. For us, it was everything was GA, it was public. We just wanted to be right on the gun as far as getting it started, and so that was really kind of cool. We downloaded everything, we got it up and running. The documentation was pretty straightforward. And then being in an early adopter program, if you haven't done it before, it's nice because it's a two-way street of you putting in some effort to test new software and carving out some time. But Oracle also takes the early adopter programs pretty seriously, in that the moment you run into an issue, you get an SR. The early adopter program means that you have higher visibility on that because they want to address any issues they missed in their testing right away. So it's a really good feedback back and forth about getting some bugs fixed or clarifying documentation, or just in general, like, hey, I'm not sure how to do this, and someone from the development team can get you an answer pretty quickly. So we had a good experience with it. We've at St. Paul, we've done the early adopter program for a couple of People Tools releases as well, in addition to this one, and it's all been very much the same. Nice support from Oracle to as we try something that's very new.
Awesome. Thank you, Dan. Then I'll move on to Kanchan. Maybe you can talk about your experience. This is the first time you were on early adopter program. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
how was it?
So thank you for the opportunity. This was my first time for the early adopter program. And I remember when I started my journey, most of our applications were in-house and we were on 8.60.03. And when Shashank approached, I think 07 patch was just came out at that time. So we had a lot of custom dashboards and like in each pillars. And I was kind of skeptical that, what if it didn't work, my dashboard, what will happen to that? So the first step was we patched our application, obviously to 07. And then, the primary objective was to test that how is the transition, customization from Elastic to OpenSearch, how this is going to go. But like everything went super smooth. And like also, later, I got an opportunity to work with a customer. They were eager to, implement OpenSearch. So yeah, overall, the EA program experience was good. And I'm happy to share my journey, experience, learning here with all of you today.
Awesome. Yeah, and keep the questions coming. I don't see a whole lot. And you can feel free to ask any one of if specific questions of the whole panel as well. Gary, if you want to quickly tell us how your experience was. I think it was the first time for you as well in the early adopter program.
It was, and I really appreciate the opportunity to be a part of that. Honestly, my goal was to, see what I can break, right? And there wasn't a whole lot. I mean, I was, brought over some custom things that we had developed from the previous release to this 859 environment. And, we didn't actually do an upgrade. So where I tested a lot was probably a little different than some of the other folks. Because I use all of our OCI environments for training and all of our internal just demo environments. And I actually didn't even tell some folks, hey, we switched this from Elasticsearch to OpenSearch. So, and then the dashboards that they were demoing as well, I think somebody did a demo and they're like, why does it not say Kibana anymore? I'm like, at least you were paying attention. But right, like they really didn't know a difference between the two. So I thought that was a really nice thing because the issues there were maybe a thing or two here, but in general, I mean, I would say that it was smooth and seamless.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And there is a question, but I'll give Rajesh a chance to talk about his early implementation. We heard about this during the CAB meetings recently in August, and we tried to work closely with him as well as his team to get their implementation going. So tell us about being an early adopter. I mean, you weren't part of the early adopter program, but you're an early implementer because you went. I think that kind of alludes to the question as well. Do you do it with the tools upgrade or do it separately?
I
Yeah.
I was trying to answer it, trying to type
Yeah.
it, but I think maybe it's better we can
Yeah.
talk. I mean, if it is a recommendation, definitely I would recommend going with the tools upgrade as long as you have like a strong system admin, who can take care of all these things, because um it's really not like lot of steps that you have to cover and all. The instructions are straightforward as long as you follow the instructions. So when we did it with 86007, like Sashank mentioned, there were a couple of support tickets that we had to work with Oracle. And again, I echo Dan's point of getting the good solid support from Oracle when it comes to issues or questions related to these new features and topics. One was, if I remember correctly, one was like we wanted some kind of documentation at that point, because what I'm talking about is like 4 months ago, or 5 months ago. At that time, we were a little bit struggling on finding documentation and all, but now Shashank already was showing like where to see what and all. And another question was we were having some caution again, or like kind of like we wanted to know like, hey, is this right or not right? We want your feedback from Oracle related to CPU topic. But again, Oracle jumped on right away and then helped us, answering all of our questions. And even if there was a slight issue or like a bug, they responded right away and applied it. But if you are taking the latest tools, which is I don't think it's 07, I think right now it's 08 or 09.
09, yeah.
You're good. Like, you can do it as part of tools. I would recommend. We did it as part of tools, FSCM pum, HCM pum. So you can imagine it's a big package. Because our application is unified navigation enabled, so we have to do tools upgrade both HCM and FSCM together. Along with that, we also did pum of both HCM and FSCM together. So it's like big bang. 4 months project, or maybe between 4 to 5 months, we did everything.
And that is normal, right? This didn't really add any additional time to your
Yes.
overall general testing. So I think usually you don't necessarily have to do it separately, but I mean, if you're already on 85921 and 86007 and still did not apply OpenSearch, then maybe you can do it separately as well. That's also an option. It's an option. We don't restrict you in any way, but this can be easily done as a tools patch, as part of the tools patch or upgrade. Dan or anyone else, do you want to chime in on that question out there?
Yeah, I can chime in. The thing that usually drives changes like this for us is when testers are available and willing to put in the time. So for us, that generally lands when we're doing another project as well. If we're doing a tools upgrade or tools patch or putting in some pums, we have testing time set aside. And for us, then it's a little easier to be like, hey, can you add this to your test scripts versus trying to carve out a separate window of time for everyone. So it would be nice to test it in isolation, because then if you have issues, you know exactly what, hey, it's this change we made is causing these issues. It's not hard to research. But in the end, I'd rather get a feature in, and if that means combining it with another project, and yeah, that's just generally where we land on that. So my recommendation is put it in however you can. Really, that's just going to be the easiest way.
Yeah. Awesome. And Kanchan, any thoughts on how you recommend customers that you work with on when to do this?
You're on mute, Kanchan.
Sorry, thank you. I was on mute. So I had an interesting scenario with a customer, and I thought I'll answer it later, but yeah, let me speak about it now. So we had this customer, and they were in the process of upgrade. So they were on 8.60.03, and they were migrating it to 08. And they have a whole step like dev, test, UAT, a whole process. So remember the architecture, what they had is a little bit different. Like usually most of the customers have this kind of architecture. They have one, search server, and that one search server is centralized for all these applications. If you have an architecture like this, where your search instance is centralized and you're trying to, upgrade dev, then test, then UAT, then I would say do this at last. I mean, once the upgrade is complete, like all the upgrade is done, then start with the Elastic to OpenSearch migration. Then it will be a seamless and smooth process. If you do it in between, like, okay, my dev is upgraded to 08, now let me do the OpenSearch migration, right? So it might impact your UAT or test applications.
Gotcha. If you're sharing the stack and stuff like that. Right?
Yes, correct.
Yeah, that's great perspective. Thank you. Gary, any thoughts from your side on that question? And then we'll move on.
I mean, I agree. I would do it, at the same time as the tools upgrade. We're actually kicking off 2 tools upgrades right now for 2 of my customers, and we had meetings over the last 2 weeks. And the one they weren't sure, I guess, and I kind of got them to agree we'll go that direction. So yeah, I'll have a few people live on it, hopefully in a few months here, and I'll have more feedback for you at that point.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to give priority to the Q&A. So I'm going to look at this other one, and we'll address that first before we move on to my questions. So the question coming in from Sid is that how about the performance comparison between Elasticsearch and OpenSearch? We tried an implementation of OpenSearch on production, and met performance issue with PeopleSoft. We were obliged to roll back. We kept same OS settings like ES. Interesting. Is there is that been your experience as well, or some additional settings we need to keep or get better performance using OpenSearch? So maybe I'll throw this to Rajesh first, because I think you have compared. I think your admin went through some great extent of comparing. Even I was just checking how the CPUs were being used between the systems and all that. So how is the end user experience been in terms of performance?
Well, to be honest, it if the question is, because the word performance, it goes in multiple ways, right? Like, so directions. So for us, one of the places where we were a little worried as part of switching from Elasticsearch to OpenSearch was the CPU usage. We thought, like, again, because we did not know, because the CPU was like spiking up. So we were like, okay, is this good or is this bad? Is this a problem? So we were asking Oracle, like, why is when we run a specific search definition, or when we are trying to deploy one of these analytics, like CPU is like spiking up, like, is this a problem? So support team helped us. I'm not sure. Again, it's, I can check with our system admin. I'm not sure what was the response from Oracle. If it was a problem, definitely we wouldn't be live right now. So I don't think it was a problem. um Again, I'm not sure about this performance question. Are we talking about the performance related to deploying the search definition? Because what I heard was, even running a full deploy, it was actually better than it was better than, Elasticsearch. When we ran like a full indexing process of some of the definitions, I heard from our admin, the timing was a little bit better with the open search compared with Elasticsearch.
Yeah, I'll just add to that because I was working with Rajesh's admin quite closely on that SR. So the experience, this admin was really particular. So he was checking CPU on the server and exact same index process running on both. He was running the indexing, not the end user experience, right? And you're seeing the CPU was spiking, but we found that our experience also internally was the same thing, but it was almost for us internally, it was like for like, but for them it seemed like it was a little bit higher on their OpenSearch server, but it didn't really affect end user performance, and there were some differences between their actual stack in terms of infrastructure. So that the conclusion there was the CPU utilization was really not contributing to any end user experience. That's purely from an indexing perspective, because if you see the comment Rajesh made, the actual indexing time was faster with OpenSearch, which was the experience. So if you want to add more details on exactly what your comparison you did, we'll get back to that question. Okay, so there's a question I'll take real quick. Does anyone else want to chime in on this on the panel?
Yeah, actually, I wanted to say something on this.
Yeah.
So actually, while working with a customer, even I faced a little bit of issue. So maybe I think this is the right time to tell that issue. So as I already mentioned, we had a centralized server and for search server, and like there are 4 different non-production instances connect to that particular search server. And now the customer wants to put OpenSearch in the same application, like the same search. So imagine you have Elasticsearch and OpenSearch on the same centralized box. And like right now, 3 servers are connected to Elasticsearch because they are on 03 patch, and 1 which is on 08 patch connect to OpenSearch, and all are on the same box. So I remember when I did this initial transition for the dev instance, and when I ran a full search, I was getting Java heap issues and all on OpenSearch. So I had to like scale up the whole application, the search server, and then add some additional heap to the OpenSearch. So it's very important to make sure your application, where exactly you're putting your OpenSearch, and you have enough disk and RAM and all these things. So I wanted to let you know.
Yeah, thanks, Kanchan. That's useful. Anyone else has any perspective on this performance before I go to the next one? Okay.
I guess the only thing I would add is I mean, I haven't run into production with that, but even with Kibana, right, it was a very similar type issue where we had to increase all the memory and everything as we had more users and everything in Kibana. And I know we're only talking about Elasticsearch here, but I do think that, each of these components that are using the same resources, maybe there's just contention for resources. And if you were still running Elastic in your situation while you also had this OpenSearch going, maybe there was, so I mean, I don't know the details, but I do know that we did have to make some adjustments over the course of the last couple of years that I learned about sometimes the hard way, right? In the middle of the class and needing to, hurry up and add more resources. So,
Okay, awesome. Awesome, thank you. So I'll move on to the next question here. So just walk us through the whole process, right? Step, in terms of what did it take? Who did you involve in terms of, then you went through this upgrade process or migration process. Maybe I can start with you, Gary, now that you were already unmute, and then we can go to the other ones.
Sure. Like I mentioned earlier, we did a lot of our testing in our environments we use for training. So I had my system admin involved. They went through, they provided me, everything they did from an install perspective and the changes that they did. And I did a lot of just the, setup testing, looking at what was out there. And then, like, again, I mentioned this earlier too, we had some of our instructors and stuff for folks doing demos using the environment. So I had different people in and out of this environment, and it didn't, seem to rattle anyone other than someone like, hey, why doesn't it say Kibana anymore? So I think, that's my experience there. It was pretty good. Now, I know when we had our internal calls with the early adopter team, I mean, I learned about some other things that folks had. So sometimes they were maybe ahead of me, or sometimes I could have been behind. So I was able to then share some of that. So I didn't necessarily, learn things. And I think the great part about that is what I've seen in the latest release, right? We started that testing on 8.5 or 860.07, 8.6.0.09. I mean, everything that we had ever, encountered has all been addressed. So it has definitely gotten a lot better as we've added to our latest versions of tools.
Awesome, thanks, Gary, and then maybe I'll ask Kanchan next. Kanchan, I know you wear multiple hats. You're a trainer, you're an admin, and also maybe a developer who does this. So for you, maybe you did everything, but in general, who are the roles that are required, or folks who in the team who are necessary to do this?
Okay, so I think who you really need here is an admin or maybe a developer or somebody who can test it. So these are the only two people you need, or maybe a one person if they know both can do it. So I'll explain what I've been through. So I had like two different scenarios. Like today I'll be talking about two different scenarios, what I tested. So first was with my internal application where we had a lot of customized dashboard, and I wanted to test after I migrate from Elastic to OpenSearch, how is my dashboards behaving? Is my data still same? So that was my first priority to test. How is my data looking in OpenSearch? And next thing I wanted to see with different architecture, as I already explained, right? So this in-house application, finance, CS, HR, so they were like pretty simple architecture. You have one middle tier and everything, app, web, process, and search on the same box. So pretty simple architecture. I tested in one of this application and the transition were extremely smooth. I did face some initial hiccups, but we were part of EA program and we were getting quick response, and we were able to fix the issues whatever we got initially. So that was my scenario one. Scenario two was when we tested it with a actual customer. So there the situation was different because like they were a public facing, like they had a public facing URL. Everything they wanted is different. Then because this was an in-house application, we do everything privately and it's not exposed to the internet. But when you're doing it with the customers, like they have SSLs and everything in place. So I wanted to test that how it is going to behave because most of the customer have SSLs, right? So this was really good, which I liked about this, that whatever, certificates I used for like the Elasticsearch, I just copy pasted to OpenSearch and it worked seamlessly. Like I didn't face any issue. So that was really good. The only difference which I figured out is the Elasticsearch uses a specific JDK version, which was like a older one, and the OpenSearch uses the latest. And if you wanted to run Elastic and OpenSearch on the same box, right, you have to like export Java to the latest version every time if you're running it on the same box. So yeah, that was the difference. And then there were a couple of things with the customer. It was a little different because this customer, they heavily use finance application and they have a lot of modules and each of their search indexes take like minimum it takes 1 hour and maximum it takes 10 to 12 hours depend on the modules. So it was really tedious to set up their application in Elastic, and then trying to move it to OpenSearch. Like moving part is easy, but setting up running search indexes and all takes a lot of time, right? So what I like about this migration process is I didn't have to run it again, after migrating it to OpenSearch. I didn't have to run it like reindex or something. Whole of my data was still there in OpenSearch, and I didn't face any issue even for a big customer like this. So yeah, these
Awesome.
were my two situations I wanted to explain.
Awesome. That's great. Thanks so much. I didn't know about the SSL piece that it automatically works if we copy paste. So that's good.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah. Dan, do you want to go next? And then we'll go to
Yeah.
Rajesh. Yeah.
Yeah. So in our case, we this in some non-prods and demo environments, and for us, we did just for like technical reasons, we tested just the installing OpenSearch on top of our Elasticsearch install where it imports the files and everything, and that worked well. We were more interested in being able to flip back and forth, and so when we did our testing, we had a separate server where we installed OpenSearch on. Which if you've done that before for Elasticsearch, it's the exact same thing for OpenSearch. Because if you, as Sunk has mentioned, it is the Elasticsearch code from a point in time that OpenSearch forked. So they are the same, same engine and everything. So for us, we installed the two side by side, and then we used inside the search framework. There is the ability to define multiple search instances. So we had our Elasticsearch instance, and then we defined our OpenSearch instance. And then you can do, you can set the priority for the search instances for different users. So we had, when we wanted users to go into an environment and just play with it, we could go in and define those users, say, hey, you five get to use OpenSearch when you go in. And so it was really easy for us to basically flip back and forth between the two to compare. So that's a great way as well. If you're thinking about migrating to OpenSearch, you can deploy it, you can start your full build, you can have it up and running at the same time you have Elasticsearch running, and then you can flip users over as you want, and then you can make the swap between the two when you're ready to go. So that's mostly how we did our testing, was using that setup.
Awesome. And yeah, just to add to that, I think that setup is how you also did possibly when you went to SES, right? That's the same search framework capability
Yes.
that you can switch, you can test specific users and then do the full switch to the search instance as
Yep.
well. So Rajesh, we'll go next to you and then we'll go through some of the community questions that are on the chat.
Sure. So, like Dan explained, we kind of did exactly the same thing during our upgrade in our non-trad. We were having both Elasticsearch and Open Search both, available because at that time it was new. We are not sure, like, which one we are going to end up using. So we were keeping both. And to Kanchan's point, I completely agree with that. It's a very good point, not worrying about running the full index, especially if you are running if you are using accounts payable dashboards. Those full index runs for like 24 hours for us. Some of them runs even longer time if it is full index, because you're talking about voucher data of last 5 years or 6 years. It's tons of data, payments, vouchers, etc. So just using the existing pre-built file, that's a huge advantage. You don't want your system admin or someone running all these programs during go live, which takes tons of time, especially in production. This will also end up you having other issues, like your users not able to use system reporting, I'm having performance issues because your search definitions are sucking up things and keeps on running other things. So it all of those are real plus for us. We took advantage of it. And coming back to this question, who did it involve? System admin, like both Dan, Kanchan mentioned, system admin is the key. As long as your search definitions are good, you don't have any issues, even running incremental index on search definition, system admin is good enough. But for us, because I mentioned we did this as part of our PUM upgrade, there were some we customized our search definitions, right? Like our take expense search definition. Expense search definition, we do not use it the way it is delivered by Oracle. We had to make some changes, like the way how we want, because we were adding some new additional informations like take mileage. That's one of our highest expense category. We want to display from and to location right in the visualization when they click performance and operations expense analytics. So we made some changes, grabbing few additional fields, because of which we had to make sure when we applied the latest pump, we had to sync it up. So for that, we need to involve one of our developers. As long as someone who knows. Again, going back, it's if it's not that complicated. It's not like creating like a huge program or something like that, right? Like it involves making changes to SQL view or making changes to PS query, and then redeploying your index file and things like that. So that's all it takes.
Thank you, Rajesh. And yeah, just to summarize here, whatever you have currently today on Elasticsearch and Kibana, right? As part of the copy, all of that will come through. So that's where what they're alluding to is you don't have to re-index anything. So yeah, as part of, let's say you haven't deployed anything, as part of the project, you want to implement something new. In that case, you will deploy that new, and that will take whatever indexing time it will take, same as what it is in Elastic, right? So that's really the concept here. Okay, and quickly answer first question on the Q&A here. When is Elasticsearch going to be decommissioned? I spoke about this in the previous session. 861 will only support OpenSearch and OpenSearch dashboards. Now for 859 and 860, since from the time OpenSearch support starts, we'll support that for about a year or until the release itself is out of patching support, right? So that's that one. So how big the server? Did we answer that already, or what happened there? So
I
someone was
just
asking,
did.
yeah,
Ours is 32 GB. I just asked our system
okay,
admin. I
okay,
got a reply 32 GB RAM, 4 CPU.
yeah,
Honestly, I don't know. I'm just saying what I heard. Okay.
yeah. So
What
the
I would
question was, yeah, let me
say,
just,
Sasank,
yeah,
is
yeah,
that it's OpenSearch is just like Elasticsearch, so
great.
you can just assume it would be a similar size and be safe.
Exactly, right. And just for the benefit of the folks listening in, the question is how big is the server, like CPU, RAM, etc. And I think Rajesh mentioned that it's 32 GB RAM and 4 CPUs. And basically what Dan said, right? The how much you need depends on what you use search for, and we have some baseline what minimum you need for Elastic and Kibana, and same for OpenSearch and OpenSearch dashboards, and then you'll have to scale that up according to your needs, just like how you scale up your app servers, right? We don't tell you how many app servers you need to have. That's our number of domains, so that's something that you do according to your load. So I hope that answers that question. I'll go back here. There's a related question here. So Lisa asking about the copy pasting the indexes from Elasticsearch to OpenSearch um, uh, to an OpenSearch installation. Is that done on a different server? I think it can be done on the same server as well as different server, as long as you have enough storage and enough capacity to run both, as we were talking about. You need a minimum capacity for running OpenSearch, and you need a minimum to run Elasticsearch. As long as you have both, storage wise as well as capacity wise, you should be fine doing it on the same server. Anyone? If
Yeah,
am
can
I
I answer
misstating?
this?
Yeah, sure. Kanchan,
Yeah.
go for it. Yeah.
So, how, like, if you are planning to install it on a different box, right? So you still have to deal with SSL. You might need a, separate security, and you also need ports open. So you need a network team. If you do it on the same box, it will be a little bit easier for you. Just the port you can open, ask the network team for the whatever port you're going to use for OpenSearch and OpenSearch dashboard. So
Sure.
it
Dan or
depends on that.
Gary, you want to chime in on this question about the migration part?
Yeah, I would just echo what Kanchan said, is like, if you're trying to just migrate the existing installation, put it on the same server. You won't, I wouldn't run the two simultaneously, obviously. So you want to shut down Elasticsearch, but the DPK for the OpenSearch will walk you through the process of essentially importing all of your Elasticsearch index files into OpenSearch. And so if you have very large indexes and you're concerned about reindexing, that might be a good way to go.
Awesome. Thank you. And then the next question is, do we need to add nodes into the cluster or use one big server? This is going over my head. So anyone else wants to take this, Rajesh or Dan or Kanchan, who wants to go on this, or Gary as well?
What I would, I mean, again, I would just use whatever you have now, because the thing that I'll say this again, because I think it's important. OpenSearch and Elasticsearch are essentially the same thing. OpenSearch is maintained by Amazon, and Oracle has committed to it as well, but it is the same code base. They function the same way. There's just different names. So how you have set up your Elasticsearch is a great way to start your OpenSearch as well. It's the same setup. So if you're looking for high availability around patching, or just concerned about downtime, then yes, a cluster makes sense. Go with the 2n+1, number of nodes. That way, if you take one down, you can still serve search results. If you're less concerned about that, and you just want to conserve resources, there's no reason one server isn't enough. Elasticsearch and OpenSearch are pretty resilient, and there's not really unexpected downtimes with it. In fact, there's production systems that I run that have one node for production because it's just been reliable enough for us. So for the most part, it just look at what your needs are and what your business is expecting, and then let that drive whether or not you need one big server or multiple nodes.
Right, I agree. And one point to say, I'm answering to some of the questions with our, settings or informations, but I just wanted to point out to everyone, we are live with all the dashboards. I have to say, it's like almost 40 dashboards, or and just the search definition, just in FSCM, we deployed like 60 search definitions. And again, if any of you are not using search definitions, the global searches and all, please start exploring those. I'm telling you, your end users and business, they will love it. Like, we recently implemented supplier contract management project. One of the success for that project is global search. We spend so much time configuring traditional search, keyword search and all on how they search contracts, but 2 weeks before go live, when we were showing this global search option, how they can search contracts, they were like, this is exactly what I want. I don't need any other pages. And now, any contract they want to search, they log into PeopleSoft, they click on the global search, select supplier contract, and start typing. Because what I told them is, you don't need to worry about what you're typing, like your contract description or supplier name or any keyword. Just go and type what you're looking for. You will see an answer. And that's exactly what they're looking, and they love it. And we started exploring all the search options couple of years ago. Now business comes to us, they say, can you, we have a bolt-on module, we call it as deposit tool, we built it in PeopleSoft. They forced us to create a global search, custom search definition from the scratch for that bolt-on module. We enabled it, and we are live for more than a year. They go and search for whatever they want in the via global search for the bolt-on module. We are trying to do it for our second bolt-on module called employee health on HCM side. So search is very powerful, like Sashank or Paco mentioned on so many forums. I think you guys should take advantage of it if you're not using it.
Awesome. Thank you, Rajesh. And with that, I think I'll move on from this whole capacity situation questions, because I mean, that's subjective, right? I think we kind of talked about that quite a bit. And yeah, keep the questions coming. I will watch them. I have a few more questions. This should be quick. I think I've been talking about this since past 2 days, that there's no end user impact, right? In terms of,
Correct.
what they search or what they actually interact with the analytics point of view. There's no difference there. So there's no training or any changes that they might have to go through.
Yeah, I think one thing that never gets looked, there's shock, is even like the setup within People tool search framework menu, all of that has remained the same, right? I mean,
Exactly.
maybe one or two small little things, but I mean, 95% of what you've done, if you've been previously using Elasticsearch, setting anything up, has remained the same.
Exactly.
as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. Thank you, Gary. And anyone else wants to take this one real quick in terms of what the end user impact was for you guys?
Really none.
Yeah.
That's all I can say. In fact, we didn't even have end users test any of this open search conversion and all, because we did it, and then as soon as our developer, someone from our community side, someone like Kanchan, who's an expert on creating these dashboards, he said, I don't see any difference, because we started creating our custom dashboards. He was comparing between Kibana and Open Insight dashboard, and he said it's almost same to same, just the label is different. I don't see like at least, maybe we are too early to say this. From quickly what we have seen, there is really no big difference. If your team is using visualization today, they will not see any difference other than a label.
Yeah.
That's my perspective. I don't know about others.
Awesome. Thanks. Kanchan, do you want to go?
So
Or
yeah, I just want to add to this what Rajesh mentioned. So exactly, this is just the label change. Again, if you are on Pump 47 and above, so I'm specifically talking to FSCM. Even the labels are made compatible to the OpenSearch, like it will show insights and all. But if you're on below, like Pump, so I was working with FSCM Pump 45 customer who were on 8.60.08. So I was seeing couple of places Kibana configuration and all. So don't like it's just the namesake. You can still use that and it is still compatible with OpenSearch. But just like a name thing you will see.
yeah.
Just
That's
don't
a
get
great
confused.
point, actually. Yeah, thank you, Kanchan. So what that is if you go to 860 the patch, whatever it is, right, or 859, and go to OpenSearch, but you don't get to the PUM images that has the label changes, some of the application roles might still say Kibana, right? But it's more an administrative difference that you'll have to kind of deal with for some time. But again, it's a label, it's a cosmetic thing. While it says what the role is called, whether it's called Kibana or what a label on a field is called, doesn't necessarily impact the end user experience or actual functionality. So that's that. So with this, Dan, do you want to say anything on this question or?
Nope. Everyone has said it. There's hardly any difference, so it's not really anything worth worrying about, in my opinion. It's super slick.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Okay, moving on. Anyone see any impact on real-time indexing, or did that all work smoothly the way it used to work in Elasticsearch?
Again, same. It's the same thing, and that's the nice thing with on the search framework that was created years ago, is that it kind of abstracts away what search engine is behind the scenes. So the fact that it's OpenSearch or Elasticsearch doesn't really matter. The setup for real-time indexing is handled in tools, and it just sends any changes over to whatever search engine you have behind the scenes.
Awesome. Thank you, Dan. So I'll move on to the next one. Actually, there's a question on the Q&A box here. Does the latest PUM have OpenSearch installed on it to explore? I think we stopped delivering by default the PUMs with at least the virtual box with the search stack. But yeah, the PUMs will have the DPK, so you can install the PUMs with the OpenSearch. That's what I think most of our partners like Dan, Kanchan, and Gary have done when they initially tested this with us. So you can explore that in a PUM environment, not through the virtual box, but through the other options, native install, right? Am I saying this right? Admins out there, Kanchan and Dan, maybe?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
The other place to try it is with Cloud Manager too. If you do have access to Cloud Manager, you can deploy a PI, and then the latest ones will be on the correct tools version. You can just add or deploy a search node, and then you have a drop down box that'll let you choose Elasticsearch or OpenSearch to deploy as well if you want to go that route.
Okay, awesome. Kanchan, did you have anything to say on that?
So actually, I wanted to talk a little bit about RTI, so about my whole experience. So I was testing this RTI for, so what happened is for this customer, we were testing RTI. So uh, Oracle has released two new search definitions, right? Specifically for RTI, recent menu, and there's one more KW something. So we did it on Elasticsearch. We did the migration, and we saw that after migration, the recent menu one, they all came fine. The RTI worked fine for the delivered one. Now, I'll talk about a mistake what I did, and I just don't want anybody else to do that mistake. So when you set up a Elasticsearch, right? You set up with a user ID and password. You attach it to a user ID and password, right? Sometimes when customers they have specific roles and permission, and the user ID which you use to set up Elasticsearch and Kibana do not, it might not have the access to see the data. So I was doing this PO receipt, search index, and my ID, which I used to deploy, did not had like I cannot see the data with that ID, but with a different ID which has the data access, I was able to see the data. So accidentally, what I did is I used the ID which I had, which had data access. I deployed it, like a full search index using that ID, thinking my real-time indexing will work. But since when you do the deploy copy option, right? So this is very important point. When you are moving your Elasticsearch to OpenSearch, right? What ID you are using to copy deploy, right? So it will only copy that particular, run controls which belongs to that particular ID. Suppose it's VP1, PS, or whatever, right? If you deployed anything with a different ID, like what I did, so I have a batch processor ID, which can see the data, but it cannot. I use that ID to create run controls. So those run controls did not get copied. And what happened is I had to again redeploy with the actual ID. The one which I used to set up. And that's the issue with what I'm going through with the real time. It didn't work for me at this point, but maybe it's some internal application issue. I'll figure it out. So just make sure you have, you're running the run controls with the right ID.
Yeah, that's the copy step once you go into search framework to move over your run controls when you're configuring OpenSearch.
Correct.
Great time talking. We didn't go through even the questions that I have. We have 1 more minute, so let me see what ones I can take. Let's talk about this one. So it's not like there was all roses, right?
Just a moment.
Yeah,
Feel free to answer the last few questions if you feel like you have time.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we can. You think we can go over a few minutes?
Yes, we can.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I think we may go over a few minutes if you guys want to hang around. But the point I wanted to make is that the reason why we worked with these experts in the industry as to start with is that we find some of the early issues, whether it's documentation. Hey, this is not clear. Dan found a few of them. Kanchan and Gary found a few of them. Rajesh was asking some questions on that. So we were able to get through those early issues with the 8.7 patch for 860. And so now we are at 860, 08 and 09 is available. All those fixes are there. And same with 859.21. So what we found with this early experience from our side, we've been able to fix. I'll say that instead of going through all the details, some of the summarization is some of the time series visual builder visualizations did not really work very well. Kanchan found that. And we were able to give her a POC, make sure we tested it and we patched it into the next one. So things like that. We did find certain minor things that we missed, which we were able to tackle. But overall, this was very seamless, just the way we expected. And it's been validated. And we have Rajesh sitting here and talking about it, right? So there are no more questions out here. Maybe quickly we can talk about the Cloud Manager experience. Maybe I think the partners who've used Cloud Manager. Maybe Dan, do you want to start with this first?
Yeah, for sure. So Cloud Manager, is it 15 that's out? That's whatever the latest one is, added support for OpenSearch. So you can deploy a PeopleSoft image or any environment with Cloud Manager and have the option of deploying OpenSearch. Now, we did find through testing with this program, there was kind of one gotcha. So when you deploy an environment with Cloud Manager, to add an OpenSearch or a search stack node type, you have to deploy the database system separately. So in our case, we were deploying some PeopleSoft images. I had been deploying it as a full tier. So that's where the database server lives on the same server as the web app and batch server. And at the time, Cloud Manager didn't support that. I know that support is coming. So for us, that was kind of the one gotcha. But once you deploy an environment, you can use Cloud Manager to do a tools patch against the environment. So we had deployed an older image. We use Cloud Manager to patch the environment to 86007. And then once we've patched the environment, you can go into Cloud Manager, add a node, and you add a search stack node. And then in the configuration that you fill out for that as a drop-down menu that lets you pick which search engine type you want, Elasticsearch or OpenSearch. And when you do that, Cloud Manager will deploy that search software for you into your environment. And then from there, you can go into the image, configure OpenSearch, and deploy whatever indexes that you wanted to test.
Awesome. Thank you, Dan. So if anyone's using Cloud Manager, you can check out Dan's response there. Kanchan, did you use, or Gary, did you, either of you use Cloud Manager when you were working on OCI, or mostly you did manual install, right?
No, mine was completely Cloud Manager. So
Oh, okay.
yeah,
Awesome.
yeah,
Did
all
you
of
have
my
any more,
application around.
anything else you want to add on top of what Dan said?
Yeah, I think he said pretty much all. Like, now Cloud Manager does give you option to upgrade to, the latest Elastic stack. I mean, OpenSearch stack. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Gary, was yours was manual, right? Based on discussions with your admin, seems like she installed it manually on OCI.
She may, yeah, I mean, maybe in later ones she's done more recently. She's used
With
Cloud Manager, but I think the
okay,
initial ones were manual. Yes.
okay, awesome. With that, I do want to take a minute. I know we're way over, but I want to thank the panelists. These guys are community experts and they've earned their stripes. So, I mean, for them to come and talk about this in terms of their experience, I think it's mainly to set the stage for the community to feel comfortable about this and move along as soon as possible. This is not like any of the previous search migrations, and we hope that this was helpful. And again, thanks to the panelists for giving us the time and working with us throughout, not just for this session, but overall in the past few months with this. Appreciate that. So with that, I'll pass it along to Justice, if you want to just do any final wrap up.
Well, we've come to the end of this session. Thank you, guys. Thank you to the panelists and to our speaker. Well, have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.